Good. All right. So while we're waiting, why don't you, you can either speak up or write in the chat, just let people know where you're from. It's always interesting to see where from around the world people are hailing in from. Hey, Al, wow, great to see you here.
Hey, Nikki, how are you?
Long time no see.
Definitely.
Wow, nice to have you join.
Thank you.
So let's see, I know we have Israel, we have England, we have Martin from the UK, we have Australia, we have, is it Italy? Did I miss anything? Zoe's from Melbourne, Harish. Good. You know what? I think we'll get, in the interest of time, I think we'll get started because I don't like to penalize anybody who was on time. So I think we'll just get started. And first of all, I just want to say a hearty welcome. I'm really happy to have you join me for this Learning from Leaders sneak preview. I developed this program in partnership with two of my colleagues, all of whom use leadership with horses as a primary approach to developing, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Yeah, Rome. Okay, sorry, Manuela. Primary approach to leadership development, but not the only approach. So naturally, we bring individuals and teams to work with our horses live. They come to our facilities to explore and observe the many metaphors that we feel is a really, really powerful approach. And that's part of what I'm going to share with you today. First, I'd like to just begin by introducing myself. Just a minute, there we go. So that's me, Nikki. Many of you know me. I have more than 30 years of experience in developing leadership programs and serving clients all over the world. I have had more than 12 years in the field of equine assisted professional development. I am a licensed horse training partner, which is a very large organization out of Europe. I am certified in many kinds of different development tools like the Myers-Briggs, creative planning, human intelligence, and others. I am also author of the book Instinctive Leadership, which is a compilation of many of the insights I have gleaned from not only working with horses myself, but more importantly, with my clients. I have been supporting leaders in 19 countries. Before COVID, I traveled extensively. Less so obviously now. And I'm an international speaker and presenter. So as I mentioned before, this program was developed in partnership with two of my colleagues, Heike Andruschak from Germany and Eva Svensson from Sweden. And this program is about helping people develop their leadership. And not only do we feel that it's faster than with many other methods, but the learning actually sticks. It stays with you. So first, I'd like to just share with you some compelling reasons why we believe this topic of leadership development is so important. So first of all, MIT Sloan Management Review, they cited self-awareness as the most important leadership capability. And I have to tell you, that so resonates with me and my approach to leadership development. The second one is that the ability to inspire and motivate is the number one competency that defines leadership quality and predicts high performance. And that's from Forbes. And then where would we be without Gallup? Gallup says that just 15% of employees around the world are engaged, are feeling engaged. And I find that statistic staggering because that means that 85% are not. So this is just suffice to say, there's so much compelling research out there about leadership challenges. These are just some of the examples, but this isn't just about feeling good about how you lead this program with horses. It's about concrete numbers and the impact that good leadership has on productivity, employee engagement, and so much more. But first, many of you are from the horse world. Some of you are not. And I'd like to just address a question that's probably on your minds. How can we possibly learn from horses online? Well, you can learn from horses face-to-face for sure. You can also learn from them online. Both approaches are powerful because in both cases, the horses are simply being present. So let me just explain what I mean by that. Horses live in the present. They make choices moment by moment, and then they move on. So whether we observe them from afar or we're physically sharing space with them, we too become really present. And therefore, we pay closer attention to whatever's coming up within us or around us. And paying that kind of attention informs our decision-making and our relationships. The second thing is that horses are extremely intuitive. They behave and they move on instinct. And that's what drives all of their actions. So we humans have, for the most part, become quite distant from ourselves. We're drawn by all the distractions that are around us in our world, always calling for our attention. And when we learn from horses, we have no choice but to pay attention to ourselves, especially when we're physically face to face with them because of their sheer size. The next thing is that horses see right through to our core. And I'm going to share a slide with you about this particularly in a few minutes, but they pay no attention to the masks that we put on, and we all put on masks, or the attitudes we adopt, and we all adopt attitudes from time to time. That's of no interest to them because they can see right through to the truth of who we are. That's their intuition playing out, even if we can't see it. So they see whatever it is we are trying so hard to hide. So interacting with them, or even observing others interacting with them, and you'll see this firsthand, draws us out from those hiding places that we may not even have known existed in ourselves. Horses provide a completely new environment, which leads us to think about ourselves differently, our presence differently. And horse images and videos reinforce and deepen the learning that validates that expression that says, what I see, I remember. So to summarize, there are 4 things about horses. They act as really powerful metaphors. They take us out of our heads and into our hearts and into our bodies and into our feelings. They offer us a new paradigm for learning about ourselves, and they provide a psychologically safe learning environment. So having described all of this, there are some prerequisites. Learning with horses is not for everyone, and not everyone will find themselves in this approach. So I'd like to just share what I mean by that, because it's important. So if you're someone who really gets that who you are influences how others are, you will probably find value here. If you are someone who really has the courage to explore how your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions impact other people and really want to know, then it's a good platform for you. If you are someone who realizes there's no way anyone can have all the answers, again, this would be for you. And finally, if you're someone who not only accepts, but readily invites feedback, this would be a good platform for you, and you will gain valuable insights. So I want to start by sharing a bunch of images, and I'd like to give you a feel for what this is all about. Okay, so I'd like you to take a look at these pictures here. They're all different horses, different ages, different positions. And I'd like you to just think about where you are with your leadership right now. Okay, so pick a horse that reflects how you see yourself with your leadership right now. And then if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you could just post your number, if you want to, in the chat. Jerry says number 1. Wow, look at, okay, Martin also says number 1. Okay, Sean says number 3. Manuela says number 3. Zoe number 10. So let's see, Martin, let's just start with Martin and Jerry. Would either of you care to describe what number 1, picture number 1 means for you in your leadership?
Number 1 to me just means vision, forward looking, and that the whole picture just relates to that. I mean, even the sky in the background.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. And Martin, you
Yeah,
have something different?
completely different. I see number one and I'm looking at that going like, wow, I didn't see that coming from over there.
Okay. The alertness, right?
Right.
Ears pricking forward. Okay. That's great. That's great. Manuela, you picked 3.
Yeah, I feel I am on my way. I don't actually know what there might be around the corner, but I see a path, and I'm going. I'm definitely going, and yeah, and I'm also enjoying my journey.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. We had another 3. Kati.
Yeah, I just see it as nicely moving forward and just trusting, really. Just
Okay.
trusting the path, even though I can't see all the path all the way, but I feel pretty safe and it's okay.
Wonderful. And Zoe, you picked number 10.
Yes. In my opinion, I believe really engaging in leadership is about taking risks and stepping out of your comfort zone. So I picked number 10 of just taking the leap and taking a leap of faith and going for broke. That was my interpretation of the photo.
Nice, nice. Eyal, you picked number 8.
Yeah, actually, I don't have any reasoning for this except that you know, when I looked at this, it looks stable and secure in his posture. So that was my reasoning.
Okay. I have to tell you that the horse in number 8 and the horse in number 10 are one and the same.
Okay.
Just not you. I wanted to share that with everybody because it's kind of an interesting comparison. Thank you, Eyal. And Kirsten, you yes.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm not a horse person. How does number 8 from a is that a chestnut go to, or bay maybe, or whatever the color is that horse people? How does that chestnut or bay go to being that gray, or is that even that's a gray, right? Number 10.
Yes, it's a gray.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Nature is very smart. Horses in the wild are never born gray because that would make them very easy to spot for predators. So they only become gray when they get older and can run away. Isn't that nice?
And yeah, that's great. Can any horse color become gray then?
I think typically, honestly, I don't know. I think typically they're born bay, but I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, in this
Yeah,
picture,
no, I don't think it is. Yeah, not
Yeah.
all colours can. As if they've
No,
got
I
that
think-
graying gene.
yeah,
I think that's typically chestnut. And
I think so too. And I have
Yeah.
to tell you, in this picture, he is the spitting image. In number 8, he's the spitting image of his mother, and in number 10, he's the spitting image of his father. Yeah. And
there you
so,
go.
Wow.
so Kirsten, you picked number 5.
I did, because I felt it showed working alongside others, and the black horse looks like it's accepting new learnings, taking on new things, processing all those things that sort of talk leadership to me. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. So you can hear just from listening to one another that even the same picture can evoke different feelings. So it's a great example of how just looking at a picture can bring up things that maybe we hadn't thought about. And there's the first and the simplest of metaphors. So, and you might pick a different picture on a different day because sometimes we're feeling on top of things and sometimes we struggle. Sometimes things don't go the way we want them to. When we pick up the reins to take the leadership. And that leads me to the first clip I want to share with you. And again, I want to apologize if the quality, if it's jumpy. I've tried everything. And if anybody knows how to make it so it won't do this, I would love to hear. But let me share with you and see how it goes. Takes a minute to get going. Is it working at all?
It's working, but
Yeah.
like in clips, like it's not,
Okay.
but it is,
Yeah, I
but it is.
don't. Okay.
Enough so we can get the picture.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. All right. So even in this short clip, there's a lot to talk about. Who might the horses be in this video?
The
What's
team,
the
the
metaphor?
employees.
I'm sorry?
Well, if I'm associating with business, it would be the team or the employees.
Yeah. And so if you were to take that further, what might be happening between the leader and those two employees? Anyone, feel free to unmute and speak up.
Maybe a little bit of confusion.
Okay. Who's confused, the leader or the employees? Or maybe
I
both?
thought a bit of both.
Okay. Okay.
Mixed messaging.
Maybe mixed messages. Did you notice when the ropes got all tangled up?
Yeah.
You okay? So sometimes we have to work to unravel the complexities. Maybe the team members had different agendas, or maybe they were confused about the direction in which to go. Maybe she was unclear about the direction in which to go. But I can tell you one thing, this woman, after going through this exercise, she was able to relate it to what happens in her day-to-day. Now, as we watch it, oftentimes what happens for us is we bring up things that we're experiencing. So if we've in our own leadership experienced times when we thought, my goodness, trying to manage people is like trying to herd cats, we will relate and think, wow, everybody's got a mind of their own. How do we possibly align everybody, right? So this is about being able to look at a situation and say, what comes up for me? What are the metaphors that I assign? There are no right or wrong ones. Everybody's different. So it's changing the paradigm that allows us to let go and learn, because watching the horses and saying, that's funny, if they were my team, what would that be like, is different than really rolling up your sleeves and saying, let's examine my team. That's another stage that comes later. Okay, so let me move on. I love this slide because it really describes the essence of why horses. So you see the horse's thought cloud. And what do you see in his thought cloud? What's there? What do you see in his thought cloud? In a word.
Simplicity. Everything's sort of very, can you hear me? Yeah. Everything's sort of very clear and simple. He's just following on. No real.
And what is it?
On.
And what is he seeing, Kati? What's he see there? What's in his thought cloud? The picture. What's it a picture of?
Exactly what he can see.
Exactly. It's he is fully in the present. And you look at the man's thought cloud, look familiar? We have a million things going on. We can walk, I don't know, half a kilometer and not even realize we've walked it, because we are so full of other things going on in our minds. We've always got so many questions. So this is about learning to be present and enjoying where we are. And some of the questions we might find ourselves asking ourselves as leaders is, how do I motivate and engage my people, like in the previous video? Or how do I lead and still be able to be hands-on because I really enjoy the technology? Or how can I stop having to do so much of the firefighting with all the escalations with my team? Or when do I ever get time to do my real work because my head is so full of all this stuff? So making the paradigm shift to a new environment is why horses are so important to our learning and development. They know how to be present, and they demand that we be present when we are with them. So this is the slide that I was talking about before. When we're young, we don't really care much about what others think. I have two very small grandchildren, and they don't care what, they say whatever comes up. But as we go through life, we have experiences and we're taught that certain things are meant to be hidden. And so we learn to hide parts of who we are. Some of it necessary, some of it not at all necessary. And we put on masks, we pretend that we're different, So maybe we'll fit in better or feel more comfortable. Maybe we become more political. Maybe we become more assertive or aggressive. Maybe we become less expressive, or maybe we even withdraw entirely. We begin to lose sight of who we really are in our core, and it takes courage to step back out and claim ourselves. And horses help us do that. Why? Because they only see who we are in our core. They see that I am in the center of those concentric circles. And in their presence, we can practice without our masks because it's psychologically safe. It gives us a chance to remember what it feels like to let go and be who we're meant to be without all those masks, and how we can show up in our leadership. This is why we say that leadership starts from within. So we have the I am in the center. We have the I fear I am, all the things the negative talk we give ourselves. And then we cover up those fears with the mask, which is the I pretend I am. Any questions about this? Comments? Okay, then. So my thoughts, yes.
I'm sorry, Nikki. Can you just restate that the fear I am again? Just one.
Yes. So in our core, we are who we are, but in the world around us, we all have fears. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not fast enough. Maybe I'm not intelligent enough. And what do we do to protect ourselves? We put on some kind of masks. Maybe it's humor. We hide behind humor. Maybe it's the tough guy, or maybe it's the meek woman. We put on these masks that kind of, we think, protect us from our fears. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, thank you.
And the horses see right through it to who we are. They see through the tough guy who pretends he knows how to work with horses. They see through the woman who pretends she's really meek, or could be vice versa. And they draw that out of us. It's quite phenomenal to see it in practice. So my tagline is leadership from the inside out. And horses touch us where it matters most, which is inside ourselves. And the principles that horses show us so naturally and so easily are really, truly profound. I want to share with you another very short video. And this is an example of sometime when we move into a situation and we think everything is just fine from where we stand until we're shown otherwise. So hopefully this one will work all right for you.
Could I just ask a question, Nikki, just before you go?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, Martin.
Just with my limited experience of our pony, particularly, which is Tigger. One thing that strikes me, that particularly when it gets to a certain time of day, he does seem to have a mind that is particularly occupied, and it's whatever he's going to have for his dinner, or whatever, or when he's ready for his breakfast. And he seems singularly focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, how do you reconcile that with that image of the horse and the mindfulness and being in the present? Because
well, for him, the present, it's interesting you asked that question, because I was away last weekend and somebody was supposed to feed my horses at 6. Long story short, I found out she made a mistake and didn't come, and it was almost 8 o'clock. Now they have these expectations, and at 6 o'clock, when they get hungry, their focus becomes food. Right. That's their instinct, to eat. So I don't think that what's the word I'm looking for? A contradiction. Their moment, in that moment, that is dinner time for them. Now, maybe if there were horses in the wild and they were grazing and searching for their food, it would be one thing. But I would guess that anybody online who has horses will say to you, when they are hungry and they know it's time for their grain, they don't have much else on their minds. Sometimes my horses won't even go out if they think it's close to dinner. If I start sweeping the mats, and they know that precludes dinner time.
So is that a case where there's no changing it? There's no leadership to be done. You just have to give them what they need.
Well, what I would say, it's just like with leadership. We have to find something that's more interesting than the food even.
Okay.
It's much harder, but it can be done. But it needs to be something more interesting, just like with us. Getting a small raise just isn't enough. Somebody else might want something even more, or telling someone, if you stay and work this weekend, I'll give you the next weekend off. Maybe that's not quite enough. We need to up the ante, just like with the horses.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen anything that's more interesting than his food, though, I have to say.
Yes, believe me, my horses are great going for a walk until it's time to come back. It's like, what? Leave the food? So yes, I have to play all sorts of games but anyway, so that's part of the challenge. So yes, they're not puppets by any stretch of the imagination. So, all right. Thank you for that question, Martin. So I'd like to share this little clip with you, and I'd like you to just think about what this woman might have been feeling in this interaction. What do you see in her body language? Or so, did anybody see that coming? Did anybody see that coming? No. Why? Why was that a surprise for you?
Well, at first it seemed quite harmonious, that they were it was almost like a dance, that they were walking around each other, and she seemed to be able to like navigate this horse in a really calm way. And then the horse just jumped. So it was
Yeah. So what might have been going on, Zoe, in the horse's mind?
But sometimes maybe our team, the people that we're in charge of may not always do the things that we want them to do, that they might not always follow direction. We can't always navigate them through a turbulent time or any sort of ambiguity.
Okay. Did it look turbulent?
No, but it looked quite harmonious. And so maybe what was going through the horse's mind is maybe there was a different power dynamic where the horse decided to just overstep its, it's
Could be.
figure.
It could be. Any other thoughts about what the horse might have been experiencing?
I wasn't sure when I was watching it that the movie wasn't really flowing very well, and I just thought that the horse changed direction at some point, and it broke like the broke like rapport type of thing that she had going with the horse. Yeah, because you see it's sort of like in slow motion sort of thing. Yeah, that's it. And then the horse changed the direction.
So how do you think that woman felt at this point? Yeah. So I will tell you that this experience led to some pretty deep reflection on her part. But this video, because it's so subtle in some ways, but so powerful in other ways, speaks to, we don't always know how we're coming across. And we all have energy. And we are exposed to people with different energy. So sometimes we can be in someone's company and we think, whoa, they are just such a strong personality. I need to back off physically sometimes, right? And then there are other people whose energy is very different. And this was a very clear, because she didn't do anything that was obviously aggressive but clearly she has a strong energy. But what else, when you saw her enter, let's go back and see if I can show it one more time. What comments can you make about as she walks in? She just walks in. Would you say that there's a relationship between the two of them? Well, there is a relationship, but what kind of relationship?
Well, she just seems to walk in and start pointing the stick or flag or what. It's hard for me to see what it is, but she just seems to get in and go for it.
Exactly.
There's no introduction or just pointing and go.
So in a session like this, when people are observing, they're all making comments about what could be. The energy was strong. The horse had another agenda. The woman didn't make any connection. And in the course of those conversations, people are picking up what they need for themselves. And it's opening their eyes to possibilities about what the nature of these relationships could be about. This is all about self-reflection. That's where it begins. So I want to share with you a short story. I was working with a senior executive who came to do a horse day with her team. And she participated in an exercise that looked like the one we just saw. Within a few minutes of her with the flag, the horse didn't jump out, but the horse went into a corner nose first and wouldn't move. And as she tried to get the horse to move, he became more agitated and she struggled more and more. First, she started by waving the flag kind of gently like the woman in the video did. And then she got more energetic as she struggled and got more frustrated. Eventually, she realized that she wasn't really doing any good. Nothing was changing. So she put the flag down on the ground and she came over and approached her team, who were all lined up against the fence. And she said to them, I have to tell you, I am so sorry. I finally get what happens with you. When things don't go the way I want them to, I get really frustrated and I get upset and I even sometimes get aggressive. And I now know that I make you just as anxious as I made this horse. And I just need you to know I am so sorry. It took a lot for her to do that. And I think that it's the whole notion of changing the paradigm and being in a different situation where you've got this animal who doesn't really know you and it's just mirroring back to you exactly what's coming across. So for this particular woman, this was the beginning of an ongoing process for her. And so it's really important to think for yourselves, this whole notion of self-reflection. How can I begin self-reflecting in my day-to-day and make it just something that I do? So some examples would be, so when you sense that maybe if you're managing a team, your team isn't being open, instead of asking what's wrong with them or why, ask yourself, am I doing something? Is there anything I'm doing that makes me come across as unapproachable? And if so, what is it? And why am I doing that? Another example would be, we all get triggered by things other people say. And before we jump down their throats and react to the trigger, stop yourself for just a moment and say, what's triggering me about that? What's behind that? Why is it such a trigger? And even just taking those few moments to do that will diffuse the situation even a little bit for you. We all, I think, well, maybe not all, but I certainly have said yes when I want to say no. And that's a great opportunity to ask yourself, what keeps me from being honest about what's coming up for me? What am I afraid of? If it is fear, what is it that I'm fearful of? And then the last one is, sometimes we resent having to manage other people when we want to be more hands-on and technical. And I see this a lot of times with technical experts who are promoted to management positions, and they really loved being hands-on and they need to learn that balance. But again, some people, the role is not right for them. I had one director in one of my courses who came up to me afterwards and he said, I have to tell you, I don't like this. I want to go back to doing what I was doing before. That was self-reflection and that was honesty. So the bottom line is, until we get why we do what we do, any changes that we make by following the books and the videos and the models and all of that to learn about leadership, all those changes will be short-lived because we all have triggers and we're only aware of some of them. But there are likely other triggers that would really help us if we could become more aware of those.
그래. 아니 뭐 뛸라 했다만 뭐 줌 회의한다 그래서 그래.
So I challenge you to think about your own triggers. And the first step is just to catch yourself as you become triggered and see if you can identify what's behind it. And then secondly, are there patterns where these triggers come up again and again? So let me give you an example of what this might look like in real life. So when we look outside ourselves first for the root of what's challenging us, we assume that we're not part of the problem. We also know, because we talked about this before, that what we do and how we do it impacts other people. And that when we change, others change around us. So I want to share with you a common scenario. So let's say that the team is letting you down. You know, you're not feeling that they're doing what you need them to be doing. They work in silos instead of working collaboratively. And you wish they would come together in a more effective way, especially when it comes to problem solving. When they run into a problem, they all come to you for the answers. And you think to yourself, well, if they just learn to think through the situations themselves, it would not only help their development, but it'd save me some time. But then at the end of the day, if you start looking inward and you ask yourself, well, why is it that they are so reliant on me? Is there anything I'm doing that feeds that reliance? Well, maybe for some people, if you're totally honest, you realize it's because you really do like being in the driver's seat. You like being the one in control. So not for everybody, but sometimes. So the bottom line is that much of what happens with our teams and our stakeholders starts with us. Many of us find it really difficult to look in the mirror and hold ourselves accountable. So my approach to leadership development focuses on where managers and leaders have the most control, and that's over themselves. Because when we change ourselves, we also invite change in others. And that's just something that can't be forced. So self-awareness is one of the key elements of leadership that horses teach so well. The second one that I wanted to share with you is about positivity. So years ago, I had an unforgettable experience. I was with a woman, her name is Casey Sugarman. She's not only an animal behaviorist, but she's also an organizational operations expert. And she engaged me in this funny exercise that made a really lasting impression on me. And now I actually do a version of it with my clients, not only about how I relate to horses, but how I relate to situations and people. She said to me, Nikki, I'm going to get you to do something. I said, okay. She didn't say anything more. And I thought, okay. And I waited and I waited. And I'm just standing there. We're in a barn. I didn't know what to do. I felt really foolish. I was looking around and I started to look to the right and left. And she said, good. And I thought, okay, but that's all she said. So I stood there a little bit longer and I looked around again. She said, good again. I thought, well, okay, clearly she wants me to move my head, but then I got tired of moving my head and I just happened to shuffle my feet or something. And she said, good, good. I thought this feels a little bit like that game Simon Says. I kind of felt foolish, but Casey's a very serious professional, so I knew it wasn't all about games. So eventually I'm looking around and I see on the wall, kind of diagonally across from me, a hook. And on that hook was a hat. And I thought, well, I don't know, what else? What else? What the hell? So I just walked over to the wall and the whole time she's going, good, 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 good. And I took the hat off the hook and plopped it on my head. She said, great, you're done. She was demonstrating just how much we can accomplish when we give only positive feedback. But most of our managers and leaders don't message that way. And I'm not saying that we never need to give instructional feedback or corrective feedback, but by and large, we would do well to focus more on the positive. Now, I've been working with my horses under Casey's guide and direction for the last many years now. And her approach led me to think about what I can do with the horses and practice this concept. So I have one of my horses, he is going to be 28. And for anyone that thinks that age is a barrier to learning, I would challenge you to think again. So I'm going to share with you this video. For those of you who know horses, you may know that they don't like to step on unstable surfaces. In this video, you see there is no rope. There is no halter on his head. There is no enclosure. He is completely free to leave if he wants to. And again, I want to remind you that he is 27. He'll be 28 in December. In under 2 minutes, 1 minute, 57 seconds to be exact, he has learned a new behavior. And I want to share that with you. The idea here is to shape behavior by working with what the horse offers me. So I actually want him to put a foot on the pillow. And the first step is just allowing him to touch it. And he does that voluntarily. And I reward him. Now he lifts his foot, which is even closer to the desired behavior. And I reward for that as well. I wait patiently until he offers something, and there it is. He offers again with his foot. Now he touches it with his nose again, but I reward that because I want him to continue being motivated. And there he gets even closer. And there he gets even closer. And he stepped on it with the other foot. That is still. And he stepped on it with the other foot. That is still good. Every effort and every incremental try gets rewarded. And there he steps on it again. You see, and there he steps on it again. You see, he's making progress. We're shaping behavior in less than 2 minutes. And there is an intentional step. This is probably a little bit of time of processing, and there we have the behavior. He's actually stepped on the pillow. So with people, it's not so different. We work with what they offer us, and we try to strengthen it by giving them positive reinforcement. One last time, and there he steps on the pillow. And one last time, and there he steps on the pillow. A couple of points I want to make about this video. I hope you were able to see it well enough. The first one, in this horse only has one eye. So stepping on an unstable surface is even more scary for him. The second thing I want to mention is you may have noticed that every time I rewarded him, I requested him to back up off the pillow, setting him up for the next success. Did you notice that? The other thing is that there were times when you might say, well, he regressed because he stepped on the edge of the pillow, but the next time he just put his nose down. And I still rewarded him. Why? What was that about? Think about it in terms of your employees and your team members learning something new. Why would I do that? Why would we encourage if they're seemingly doing less than what they did a second ago, or a day ago, or a week ago?
I think because progress isn't a straight line always. Sometimes we learn, from making mistakes. We learn from like either positive things or negative things, memories, past trauma that inhibits us from making, walking in a straight line. But as long as we're on that trajectory and we're being led with compassion, then that's how the horse eventually gets there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Zoe. Any other thoughts about that?
I really like
that.
I really like that comment that progress isn't a straight line. That's really true. So I can see, although he didn't step on it on that one time, he also basically, and you can interpret it as he put in the effort.
Exactly, Jerry. Exactly. He stayed in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And when he turned away and he looked away from the pillow, he was processing.
Mm-hmm.
They are not robots. We are not robots. So you tell me, why would he stay there? Okay, I've got carrots, but still, if the carrots had to be a bigger motivator than his friends, hay, any other number of things. But why would he stay there? No enclosure, no rope, no force.
He was engaged in that moment.
Yes, he was enjoying the experience. Okay? It's not difficult to see how that translates to how we motivate and engage our employees. Okay, so there's a lot to notice here that shows how positivity yields results. And knowing that we make faster gains with positive reinforcement, we have to ask the question, then why do so few leaders use it or use it so sparingly? So first of all, sometimes it's expectations. Well, they're getting paid to do the job. So why should we praise them for doing what we pay them to do, right? Or when we use a results-only focus, we miss chances to strengthen the engagement. We're only focused on the end result. We need to be focused on the process along the way. And as people are working through the inevitable challenges they're going to be facing, we want to encourage the behavior. Oops, sorry. So positive, I don't know if you know this, but positive recognition and praise increase dopamine. Dopamine is a hormone and a neurotransmitter in the brain, and it acts as a chemical messenger between the neurons. And when our brains expect a reward, even when it's positive feedback, our brains release dopamine. So even just anticipating that we're going to get positive reinforcement or positive feedback raises our dopamine levels. And that's why dopamine is called the feel-good neurotransmitter. So let me share with you a situation. We recently had a client who promoted a star employee. They gave this employee new responsibilities because they felt this person's really competent. And they were really sure that it'll be a no-brainer. She's going to get up to speed in no time. But after just a few weeks, they called me and they said, I don't know what to do. Her work is really borderline. She's starting to withdraw. And I suggested, you need to schedule a meeting to check in with her and find out from her why she's had such a change of heart. So in the meeting, she tells them, I'm completely overwhelmed. I'm not feeling motivated. I'm feeling really incompetent. I wasn't ready for these new responsibilities. I didn't have any formal support. I didn't get any guidance from you, and I really wasn't encouraged. So they said to her, well, why didn't you come to us if you were struggling so much? And you should have let us know. And that's the typical answer. Why didn't you? Right? Going back to what I said earlier about when we look to our environment instead of looking to ourselves, why would it be the employee's responsibility only to come to the manager? When we see something wrong, we tell ourselves, oh, I'm too busy. I don't have time to train her. We make an assumption that she was great in her formal role. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. Must be something else. But when we take the time to think about it, we realize maybe our expectations were a little bit out of line. We put her under some pressure. We should have given her more support early on. Maybe if we'd scheduled routine meetings for the first month, opened the door wider for her to come when we, needed help, when she needed help, things would have looked very differently in that first month. So I'd like to just share with you what we can learn next about disruption. We've talked about self-awareness. We've talked about the power of positivity. And this is another area where horses can really teach us a lot about disruption, what happens in the face of disruption. So this is an example of a disruptive situation, and just watch what happens at the end. Whoops. Yeah. And by the way, Martin, this is about food, as you'll soon see. So these two clearly have something to say to each other. Few last words, and then they stop and go back to eating. So what can we learn about watching a situation like that? What can we learn from that?
I mean, I don't know, it just seems like it was in clips again, but it seemed like there was a disagreement of some type. But at the end, they resolved it and said, let's just eat. I don't know.
Right. So no, that's a very literal translation for what you saw on the screen. So if you think about what could be the message for us, for teams.
I think we could look at the food as some sort of desired goal that we are in competition towards. And then we see within the horses there's some sort of like power play, this power dynamic where they're kind of trying to perceive each other as like who is going to get it, who is going to be more successful, who is more likely to reach the food. And then eventually they all just kind of compromise and just you all enjoy the food at the end.
Yeah, I mean, disruptions are going to occur, right? Because we're not puppets. We're all different. Disruptions are going to occur, but do they have to stick around? Can we just move beyond them and just resolve it and go back to, as they say in the horse world, go back to grazing? And so we, as humans, we hold on, we hold grudges, we pass judgments, right? And so the conflict goes far beyond what it needs to do. So let me just share with you a quick story about a leader trying to lead through disruption. So her name was Ronnie, and she was coordinating the employee side of an office move that would require not only changing locations, but also shifting to an open space layout. She met with the managers in the company for input on their furniture, on the layout, on the desk locations in the spaces. She set up town halls so that the executives could share their plans with the employees. But still, even after all that, the change was poorly received. The complaints that people raised seemed petty and kind of unimportant, but clearly they mattered to the people who were raising them. So to address all those feelings, the company organized smaller group meetings, like focus group kind of things, so the employees could openly express what was coming up for them. What they learned was that they failed to pay attention to the emotional disruption that people were feeling. And because emotions are so much harder for people to express, how do they do it? By picking up these petty little things that they complain, not petty, but you know, things that you think employees shouldn't be complaining about, that they're adults. So, but that's how they could express it. It was sort of hidden under the surface. So until those real feelings got addressed, it was really difficult for people to move on. So dealing with change is tricky and complex. And we have to understand that there are questions behind the questions people are asking, and that's where the real value is. So
can I just ask another question? Because I got something. I kind of got something different from the video, from what I could gather. Yeah, because what struck me there was that there was no leadership intervention between the three horses, right? So essentially, you know, what I thought about there is that the message that I got was sometimes don't do anything, just sit outside of the issue and let it work itself out.
That's a really interesting and powerful observation, Martin. People will debate long and hard about whether horses have true leaders. And what I would say is that it depends on the situation. So just so you know, the darker horse is the 27-year-old. He has one eye and he's the oldest. And typically as they get older, they are seen as less virile and, but he is the one horse anyone can be with because he allows it. The white one is the youngest one, the biggest and the strongest, but he's the one who will defer to everyone else, usually. The other one who was there, when it comes to food, he's usually very, very aggressive, and people just say, yeah, whatever, Jan, go get it. So it's very interesting in this video that it was about the hay in the corner, and that third horse did not intervene. So what you said was really insightful. Knowing when to step in and when to stay on the periphery. When does it really matter? When is it worth getting involved? And when do you let things kind of work themselves out? Is that kind of what you were saying?
Yeah, because the message from all of these videos so far is the horses all are perfectly capable of sorting this all out for themselves. It's when the people step in is when it all goes wrong.
And so if horses can settle it for themselves, so for a manager watching this, if they had worked with any of the horses or if they knew the history or not, they might say, maybe I don't have to get involved. Maybe just leave it alone. It'll settle it out. But if I start taking sides, it's going to exacerbate the problem. Right? So that's the beauty of it. We all see different things in the interactions, and what comes up for us is the message we need. I'm not implying you need to learn how to manage conflict, Martin. I'm just saying. So I appreciate that. So we can't lose sight of this whole notion of the power of emotions. That's what emotional intelligence is based on. The ability to accurately read and empathize and respond to emotions that are coming up, not just in ourselves, but in other people. Emotions are not only real, they are truly legitimate. And in fact, whenever we go through a change or disruption, we pass through a series of emotional stages at different rates and maybe even in different orders, depending on who we are. But as managers and leaders, by the time we share the changes with our people, we've moved beyond that first stage and they're still there. And we may have even had the benefit of being part of designing the change. But somehow when we step into the manager role, we forget what it feels like to be the employee. And I'll tell you, that happens even within minutes. When I work with teams together in a classroom, and I have them take the perspective of the employee, they have all kinds of gripes about the management and so forth and so on. And then when they step back into the manager's role, they forget everything. They forget everything. So we have to be more mindful of the fact that our employees are not where we are. And we need to be patient, we need to have understanding, and we need to not only listen to hear their questions, we have to think about what are the questions behind their questions, because that's where the real insights are. So there are 5 points I want to share with you. The first one is that emotions are information. The second one is that to remember that we all go through emotional stages when there's a major disruption, even a minor one. That often leaders are further along the curve than the employees because quite simply they've known about it longer. The questions behind the questions, this for me is the most important one. And the element of surprise is not always welcome. We think, we've got this great thing coming, they're going to love it, but it's still a disruptive change. So I want to give you yet another example of how this has played out with a client of mine. So there was a team that got assigned a new project. And you know how it is in IT, they're always excited to get new projects because then they get to use new technology and learn new things. And the leader thought this is going to be great for them. But she didn't want to share it until they finished the project they were working on and to make sure 100% that it was going to happen. So she started planning the roles and responsibilities and designing the work teams, who was going to work with who and so forth. And the time finally came and she gathered the people in the room to share the good news and roll out her plan. And she looks around the room and they're like deadpan. They are not happy. Sometimes we just get so caught up in our own excitement and our own anticipation of how we know they're going to respond, that we forget to think about the emotional effect of a change on them. So of course, at the end, they were okay, but to them it meant, am I going to be working with different people? Do I have to leave my friends? What if I'm not so good in the new technology? All these emotional things came up for them because the disruption triggered these emotional responses. So disruption, power of positivity, the importance of self-awareness. These are 3 really important topics that horses can teach. There are many, 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 many more. So by now you've had a taste of the ways in which just by observing horses or for sure working with them face to face, create powerful metaphors for the things that we need to pay attention to as leaders. The horses give us a platform that provides us with the necessary distance to be able to really see these metaphors and gain insights without being afraid of judgment. So we need that distance to create the safe space and to look inside, because that's where our learning begins, on the inside. Looking inward to develop our leadership, as I said earlier, takes real courage. It's not for everybody. So it's not about whether or not you have the right qualities to succeed as a leader. I believe that everybody who wants to and is willing to meet the criteria I mentioned early in the presentation can be. But you have to have the courage to really explore what drives your own behavior, and then to be able to act on what you learn. So at the end of the day, for me, success depends on a few key elements. The first one is the right approach to self-awareness. The second one is a clear understanding of your own core issues. And I'll get back to that in a minute. And the third one is some kind of guidance that helps you go through the process. That's what's required. So what now? Well, you have 3 choices. The first one is we can always continue doing what we've always been doing. And you know that phrase, how does that quote go? If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got, or something like that. So if you like where you are, that's great. The second one is you could try implementing some of the approaches that I talked about and the examples I gave and the tips I gave here on your own, or you could get a jump start with a couple of gifts from me, and they're related. And no, it's not your own horse, much as I'd love to give you your own horse. First of all, I really want to thank you for staying with me for the duration of the webinar and for your commitment to coming here and looking at your own leadership. I think that it will help you move further down your own path. But before I let you go, I want to share with you a little bit about the structure of our full program of Learning with Horses. So it consists of 4 90-minute modules that are group oriented. And then in between the modules, so like every other week, coaching session one-on-one for every participant. And then in the end, we bring the group together to do a full follow-up. And what you see below are the titles of the 4 modules, okay? So again, I told you it was developed by me and with 2 of my colleagues, and it was designed to help change the paradigm that helps people reflect more deeply about their leadership. So back to your options. Now I have a QR code here that you can scan that will take you to my website if you'd like. And there's the registration for the webinar, which you've already done. The other thing you can do is if you would like to schedule a complimentary coaching call for 60 minutes, I am happy to talk with you about any issue that's on your mind when it comes to leadership. Okay, that's the second thing. The other thing that I'd like you to do is I work with this assessment tool that I've been working with since I think last fall, and I really love it. As I told you earlier, I work with a lot of different assessment tools in my past, and this one I like for very specific reasons. It provides great insights about your work motivators, your work behaviors, what constitutes ideal work for you, your life priorities. And I'm going to offer this to you for free. And then what will happen is once you get your results, you can schedule a complimentary coaching call with me for 90 minutes to go over your results and talk about how those results are showing up in your life. So one of the things that you can do is, I probably have all your emails, but you can put your email in the chat and I'll follow up with you and send it to you. So I just need to make sure that you have it. One thing I want to say about the human intelligence tool is that where I find other assessment tools highly prescriptive, here's who you are and what you need to change. This one is not. This one is more provocative, and it provides a great platform for talking about how do I show up? What makes me tick? How does that show up in my current work environment? What would it look like if I was to adopt this perspective? Are my life priorities having real meaning in the way I'm working and living right now? And so it's more a platform for discussion, and there is no right or wrong answer. I really, really highly recommend you give it a try because first of all, it's free. And second of all, it's really powerful. And third of all, you get a free call with me. So any questions about that, about the tool?
Does that tool take a long time, Nikki, to do?
No, thank you, Martin. That's a really good question. It takes maybe, it depends on how fast you read, 10 to 15 minutes. So, and it's also really simple to look at the results. You know, if you've done some other assessment tools, you need a degree to know how to read the results. This one is so straightforward. It even has cute little pictures of your personas, which I like. So, but don't let the simplicity fool you. It's not at all simplistic in the results it gives you. It's only simplistic in its visual presentation. It makes it easy.
Is that on the website?
No, but Jerry, I will send you the tool. I will send you a link after we close today. I'll send it out immediately and you can do it. And by the way, you get your results immediately. You will get them in your own email immediately. And
That's
then
awesome.
I will find out that you've taken it, and then I can send you a calendar schedule so that you can book a time with me if you want to. But I would recommend it. Okay. So any other questions that you might have about the session or about the content? No? All right then. So I just want to say thank you so much for sticking with me. And please feel free to share the information. Recommend the webinar to your friends or colleagues or bosses or team members. Yeah, thank you so much for being with me. So anything else you'd like to say or closing words before I let you go?
Thank you. Very good.
Good, wonderful. So
Thank you,
Jerry, I'll
Nikki.
make
That
sure
was
you
great.
get it. Good. Zoe, would you like to try the assessment?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I'll make sure you get it. Manuela, have you done it already? Manuela's on mute. I'll check with her. All right, then. Thank you all so much, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thank you, Martin, for joining. Manuela, okay.
Fantastic, Nikki. Really enjoyed it. Really learned some
Good.
things.
Good, good. It's hard to teach you things, Martin. You know it all. You know a lot. No one knows.
If you were British, I'd know that was sarcasm.
Oh, no, I wasn't being sarcastic at all. No.
Thanks, Nikki. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Nikki. Bye-bye.
Okay.